Welcome to Bitcoin Live on the Thursday evening in Europe, that is. We got a very special show today. We have the people from Keevo on. We have Henry and we have Ido, the CEO and the CTO. Welcome to Bitcoin Live.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for having us.
And yeah, we always start with a very boring but very important first question. And that is, could you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your background. And yeah, Henry, do you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. Just a quick clarification. I'm the founder. I was the CEO. Ido is now our CEO, and we're super excited. He obviously has a lot of background, and he'll introduce himself, but more so on the founding and starting and leading Keevo for the last 3+ years. But my background, just by way of introduction, is I've been sort of at the intersection of large enterprises and small startups for the past 3 decades nearly. I've had a lot of experience and focused my career primarily in the fintech and insurtech and financial service companies, but also consumer companies. And we'll get into more about Keevo in a little bit, but the inspiration there was, how do we kind of create a simple and secure solution that helps people be their own banks and capture this new revolutionary decentralized ledger technology and that the blockchain and the spirit really entails.
Thanks. And Ido, could you?
Yes, absolutely. So in the past 25 years, I started 6 companies, had the luck to sell 2 of them. I also have the opportunity to be with big, amazing companies like Netflix, Google, Yahoo, Meta. But I'm much more of an entrepreneur than a big corporate guy. And my first encounter with crypto was around 2010, 2011. So very early on, my father came to me, and that was the first encounter. And we were fascinating, of course, from the technology perspective. Then we jump into the other aspects of it. And with Keevo, it's actually been a very interesting ride so far, and we could jump and elaborate on it a bit later.
Yeah, and I have to sort of explain to the people viewing this on Twitter, because I made a header in advance and I sort of said that you're the CTO and you're the CEO. So my apologies for the wrong header there. Well, you basically already sort of answered it a little bit, but I wanted to ask both of you, sort of, how did you get involved with crypto? I mean, what sort of attracted you about this sort of revolution that's going on? If you allow me to call it a revolution.
Why don't I start briefly, but I'd love to, I think both of us have been in this for a while. I've been in kind of this decentralized ledger crypto space for about 10 years. My fascination started when I was back at BCG and helping large companies, large financial service companies and others really look at new technology and disruption possibilities. So we were working with De Beers and we created Tracer, which is probably the first, a truly track and trace system application. And then also with Cisco and Vera, which is a new blockchain technology. It's really kind of platform agnostic, and a set of others, AIG and RBC. And what we found in building these was that there's, it's great that you can actually have all this security built into a decentralized ledger for tracking your diamonds or your assets, your investments, your securities, et cetera. But at the end of the day, your private keys, so that security is at the public level, but really the solutions to basically store and keep secure and access your private keys and your digital identity was incredibly difficult. And there was this huge forced compromise that, whether it was, self-custody solutions like Trezor and the initial Ledger product Nano S, and now a bunch of other products, this, model of having your own self-custody hardware wallet was both, ostensibly more secure, but actually incredibly hard to use. The devices were very difficult. The screens were small or non-existent. And the ability to actually be your own bank was really hard. And you didn't trust it. And then worse than that really, is the seed phrases. You had to not only have this technology that was supposed to make it easy and available to be a self-custodian, self-bank, your own bank, but then if you lose that or it doesn't work, you had to have this piece of paper or have the system to create kind of your seed phrase, which we thought was not only horribly inconvenient, but incredibly, insanely insecure. And so that's really where the inspiration for Keevo was, to bust through and break that compromise and create something that's both ultra secure and easy to use and simple to keep your privacy and be your own bank.
Ido, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, of course. So I, as I mentioned, started with crypto 2010, 2011. My brother came to me and told me, there's this new thing. It's called Bitcoin. You should read the white paper and let's talk. And I'm like, come on, what is this new thing? And after I read it, and it was one of the best short white papers that I read so far, we sat together and we understood very early on that there's something revolutionary here. Both of us were attracted from the technology perspective, and back in the days, it was really, really interesting to see how things were starting bottom up. Obviously, mining on some old PC and doing all the nice things. And one of the things that actually bite us very hard, very early on, since it was the really, I would say, Wild West, was we were part of Mt. Gox back then. So exchange, yeah, the first major exchange. And as you can imagine, and I'm sure everyone that's watching or listening could imagine, that was the first lesson that we learned, and it was a pretty rough one. Since then, obviously, we invested a lot in learning more and see how we could do things much better in a higher quality. And first and foremost, it's being your own bank, so holding your own wallet. And then when you're talking about your own wallet, you're talking about software with all the vulnerabilities of software and the ecosystem that the software is sitting on. So obviously, as I mentioned at the beginning, it was all desktops. Pretty early on, we understood that it should be mobile. And of course, hardware is the last frontier in terms of cold wallets or some air-gap device that it's much more secure. So we understood it very early on. And with Keevo, it was really a great path moving forward of promoting it and having an even more secure device in the market and in the hands of ones that really care about security and want to be in the next level, I will call it, of what the security could attract and be at.
Yeah, because the next question that we wanted to ask was, what made you decide to create Keevo? I think you answered it a little bit, but you guys were so awesome to send me Keevo. So I've got one over here. I'm really proud to own one. And before the show started, we talked a little bit about wallets. And then I told Henry I also own a Ledger and also own a Alipal and now a Keevo. And especially the Ledger, what you just described, is very difficult, I think, to use. Very small display, but also you have to press a small button, and it doesn't really feel very nice. I use it, but not with pleasure. And then the Alipal is a lot easier to use. But I don't know because I'm not very technical in that sense, so I don't know if it's as secure as the Keevo wallet.
I'll blow it up.
So maybe you can describe or tell our audience what this means, what I'm doing right now. What does it add in the sense of security for Keevo?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually were pioneering this, I would call it, higher security level. And in the past almost 4 years now, we were the only one that actually approached to this no phrases mechanism and the ability to hold the private key that giving you a higher security level because you don't know. And maybe I'll take a step back. If you're thinking about all the Ledger and other wallets out there, it's great. It's hardware device. It's much more secure than your mobile app that could be compromised because the mobile itself is compromised. So that's a great level. However, in all of these solutions, you still have this 24 or 12 words, depends. And this key phrase, you need to back it up. And not only it's not convenience, it's a huge, I would say, weak link. And obviously, all the hackers and the ones that want to break the mechanism of security will try to find the weak link, and this is the one. What we thought at the beginning is to have this secure private key that doesn't need any key phrase. So you don't know it, you can't compromise it, you don't need to back it up on some papers or hide it in the garden, or all those nonsense. It's basically the next level, what we call it. And what you see here is basically the carbon key, or this magnetic attach that we could separate. And after you initialize the device, you have a backup of your, I would say, mechanism to generate a private key per transaction, and it's part of the device, and you have the ability to have one on the carbon key, and this carbon key could be in a safe, in a bank, or another location, anywhere else. What we brought to the market, which is very unique, and now we see actually Block and Square and other that promoting the same initiative, so we know that we did something right. We have some big partners that will help us educate the market, is this ability to have these few mechanism of authenticating you as the right owner of this private key. And those mechanisms are something you know, so it could be the password or the PIN. It's something you own, that's the wallet itself. And the last one is the carbon key. So we have 4 different things to authenticate you, and you need only 3 out of the 4. So again, it's the next level of bringing you security and ease of use. So if you saw and you showed it to the users, the screen is 2.8 inches, much larger screen. Yeah. You could actually see and work with it. It's a chat screen. You have the fingerprint, of course, to validate you. So again, it's something that is very convenient. You don't need to go and hit those tiny buttons and miss the PIN code that is usually much shorter. So again, it's one level up in terms of the security and the ease of use. Of course, the customer experience is something that we highly, highly evaluate and trying to cater to in everything we do.
That's great. The only thing I'd add, Ido, I think that's exactly right. In terms of, we were talking about this initially about the technical. Nobody that like says they promise you 100% security, I would tell you up front, they're lying. We think, as Ido said, this is sort of the next level of security. It's much more secure. And I'm sure we're going to get into this kind of blind signing hack that the Ledger Connect just had. But if you think about it, I mean, the notion of having you in your own control, making it easy for you to basically sign something, know what you're signing, have a larger screen, have it in your hand, is on the security front important. The only other thing I'd add just at the higher level is, I mean, at the end of the day, the position or how I kind of view this is really your digital identity and all of your digital assets. It's starting with, your crypto assets, but there's so many more things in this world. And what we see happening is they're digitizing. Not only your kind of web experience and all of the different services that you use there in the cloud, but really, whether it's your securities, whether it's your real estate, whether it's your art, whether it's your music, those are all digital assets, increasingly, and your ability to actually have those or be able to access them in a secure and an easy and a convenient way. We think, a small, even if it's $50 or $150 or whatever, is that really what your digital identity and your digital assets are worth? And we set out to create something that we thought is worthy, not only of this new digital identity, the digital assets you're going to create, but really is something that will last, a generation, be multi-generation as well.
Because that is, of course, the very difficult situation, the dilemma that you have to be your own bank. I mean, that's also what makes it attractive in the first place, of course. But, many people don't want to be their own bank, right? So I think the product that you're creating, or have created, I should say, is very sleek, very sexy, but also very easy to use, intuitive, and secure. Yeah. So, but it's, of course, it's always a trade-off. Like you say, you cannot make a perfect fortress, right? You have to be able to get in and out.
And when we were talking, I just put some XRP on it, because that's one of my favorite digital assets, besides Bitcoin, of course. But it's very easy. So I did it in a few seconds and it worked, and I had to watch the screen as well. So try that with a Ledger Nano, and I can tell you won't make it. Also with the Alipel, maybe you could, but then you wouldn't have that added security.
And here are some of the other assets that you also support for the people who might be wondering. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about all the different assets, crypto assets that Keevo supports?
Yes, absolutely. So as you could see here, we are extremely passionate about the head of the big tail, and then we also want to serve the long tail of, let's call it exotic, different crypto coins. But we first and foremost focusing on Bitcoin, and since it's by far the largest, the Bitcoin and all the derivative of Bitcoin like Doge and Lightning and others. And then, of course, ETH and all the huge ecosystem that is coming with it, ERC20 and many different type of coins that are being launched on it and experiments on it. We building now a semi-automatic process to evaluate new coins and make sure that we will be able to add them rapidly to the offering. And I'm hopeful that we'll have some good news to publish early next year, maybe around the end of Q1.
Okay, looking forward to it.
Yeah, we'll keep a close eye on that.
Yes.
That's very exciting. So well, you touched upon it already, but what happened with Ledger and how could that never happen with Keevo? I mean, we sort of already talked about it, but maybe can you explain a little bit more about what went wrong with Ledger and why that would never happen with Keevo?
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, just to put things in perspective, it's one of those things that actually Ledger as a hardware wallet wasn't compromised. What was compromised is an NPM package that Ledger is supporting that give people the ability to connect Ledger with Web3 and decentralized apps. And this is one of those things that, again, you could see my white hair. So I've been around the block, and actually before the term DevOps was coined, or far before the term DevSecOps was coined, we were trying to do that. And the ability here is to make sure that each and every part in your security chain is being enforced and it's being validated. And what I mean by that is that usually if you're thinking about software and everything that we do is about software, in most cases when you're bringing a new service or a new product to the world, you adding maybe 20% on top of a mountain of 80% that you are taking from the open source community. And it's extremely important to make sure that, one, the things that you bring into your house are clean and validate and don't contain vulnerabilities. And later on, while you are maintaining the software, and exactly like in this case, you want to make sure that no one, not an ex-employee with some password that shouldn't have, and no hacker that by social engineering, like in the case of Ledger, was able to take advantage of this ex-employee and put their own code up there and then just sit and wait and see how other applications are use and leveraging this weakness point, and the transfers or the address actually of who you're sending is the wrong one. With Keevo, two things that we are doing to mitigate such cases. One, we have in a process some open source projects that hopefully we'll be able to share with developers so they could build on top of Keevo. The first and foremost thing that we'll do is that we'll export, or we will have transparency of our CI/CDs, and the DevSecOps in all those automatic CI/CDs pipelines is the ability to actually check for vulnerabilities, check for some malicious actor that is inserting a vulnerability. And there's quite a lot of tooling out there today that helping us to do that, and to, I would say, like an onion, take the different layers, look what is inside of each layer, and make sure that the certain NPM package or anything that we are bringing into our house is in a quality and in a level that we can support and want to maintain. The other aspect that is coming to mind when you're talking about Ledger is basically the theft of the private key. Now, that wasn't the case here, but what we have is, I would say, a huge advantage on Ledger and maybe quite a lot of other hardware wallet is, again, the point of there's no seed phrase. There's no 12, 24 words. You don't need to write them on some metal and hide them in the yard, and then, some kid is finding them, or some other, ridiculous solutions that we found over the years. You aren't aware of it. We're saving it on a secure chips. We have patents for that. And we're generating a new private key per transaction when you're talking about the Bitcoin world. So extremely secure. And it's always reminding me, the notion, you can't give or you can't tell what you don't know. So you don't know what is the private key or the seed phrase. So we're basically saving you. And you just mentioned it before, but I think it's extremely important to note and to understand that we're trying actually to bridge the gap, and there's no such thing as 100% of security. But what we're trying is to bring the best of the world in terms of the user experience, to make it easy for you to understand what you are doing, how you are doing, and that's, we believe, is something that is bringing much more confident and a much higher level of security when we're talking about all the social engineerings and other aspects of security that are, in most cases, the weak link.
Yeah, because you have basically created something that also can interact with the internet, with the blockchains, right? Because you could sort of make it super safe and put it somewhere where you never have access to it, but then you cannot interact with.
Really hard to use.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is like an optimal solution, and also, like, I mean, you already sort of referenced it, but if you have a seed phrase, you can also screen capture it, right? Or there's all kinds of stuff that can go wrong with this. AI can grab it. It's not very secure, right?
It's
and actually, in the past, I was working, and I actually put as a comment, as a reply to one of your tweets, a Bitcoin tutorial video that I did while I was with Google. I think it's 8-9 years ago. And actually, it's a funny thing. Just check the price back then, but it's 3 digits. And I thought, we are really late to the game. But nevertheless, you'll be amazed. I was working with young entrepreneurs back in the day, and they were, really passionate about the security and how they're securing the private key and what algorithm that they use. And then they're putting, the seed phrase in a screenshot in iCloud or somewhere else. And I'm like, what are you doing? So it's those cases where you think you're covering every aspect, and you're using AES or some other, very.
You could even say that you protect the user from him or herself.
Yes, that's what exactly.
I mean, just imagine exactly almost every other wallet that's sold, Ledger for sure, but almost every other wallet comes with a piece of paper that is your recovery card that asks you, in part of the setup flow. Not only is it horribly inconvenient, if you've ever had to, restore something and enter a, you were talking about the small screen, the buttons you have to enter, but they actually, provide you with a piece of paper. In fact, I won't name names, but other hardware wallets out there sell you, CryptoSteel is a separate company, but they sell you these metal wallets that are intended to actually put your seed phrase into them. We think that's insane. It's not only incredibly inconvenient. Nobody's going to, the mass market, the mainstream kind of user, wants security, wants privacy, but they don't. If you think about the lengths at which people go to, and these other solutions are selling that, we thought there's got to be a better way.
Yeah,
and that's where Keevo. I think that, as Ido was describing, this fact that we've got this ability to have a seedless transaction signing and recovery mechanism with using your things that things that are unique to you, like your biometric, the device itself, and then this carbon key kind of solution to be able to store that separately. And again, that's just the beginning. The 3 out of 4 that we described is just the beginning. That extra set of factors could be elsewhere. I don't know if I'm, probably dating myself or my kids, but they call it kind of the Harry Potter Horcruxes. You can put little parts of your identity essentially, and by combining those, you can, in a simple, without having to hide it in your garden or put it on a piece of paper, or the initial founder of Monero said they had it in invisible ink in a room, and they knew what there's that won't scale. That isn't a great user experience.
And I have to add one more thing. There's even some wallets where you think you have the seed phrase and you can recover your wallet, and it turns out you cannot open your wallet or your assets with the seed phrase.
Right.
Yeah. Those are there too.
So, something popped in my head, but especially what you have built with Keevo, I think it's also built for the next phase of the blockchain or crypto Web3 space, how you like to call it. But I think adoption is gaining speed or gearing up. So we're going to the next phase. And then if people want to, and I would suggest they do, but be their own bank, then it has to become easier. And like you guys said, an app is not very secure, and an iCloud especially isn't. But then it has to be as easy as possible, because otherwise people will never really start adopting crypto or blockchain or whatever, how you like to call it. So I think that your timing maybe late to the party, but maybe you're early.
Yeah, I think the right timing is
the right timing. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course you have different wallets for different users, right? So, yeah. But I think the Keevo wallet is excellent for having security, but also being able to interact and having many different assets on it, and being very user friendly and look very nice.
Yeah, he's a little bit jealous now.
I'm a little bit jealous.
Yeah, Nick told me earlier that you didn't have one, so we have to fix that. And we have to fix that for people watching this as well.
Cool.
Thank you for that, by the way. Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah, and one of our questions was how hard is it to create a Keevowallet? And I think you touched upon it, but maybe you can highlight a little bit of the technicals that or the time that you guys invested and money to create the Keevowallet and the software.
The only thing I'll start off by saying is I learned this from our industrial designer and mechanical engineer who's been working on the team. He told me, Henry, hardware is hard, and the truth is it is, because you have to sweat all the details to make sure that you've got something that can actually be manufactured at scale, can be kind of manufactured at a cost-effective bill of materials, a BOM cost, and it not only has to be, the effort that we put into that took about a year and a half in the lab, with different kind of form factors, thinking about the hardware piece. But on top of that, we had to have the software as well, both the firmware that goes onto that hardware device, but then also the desktop app, Keevo Link. And so we've invested quite a bit of time. There's been a lot of iteration, and as I mentioned, we're kind of going through that again with another version, another rev to make it even more secure, more simple to use. But there's a lot of investment and a lot of team here, and really excited about Ido and the team and what they're doing. And so I'll turn it back over to you. But I think there's a lot more on the software and the technology as well as the hardware that we've invested in, and more yet to come.
Ido, can you tell us how difficult was it to develop something like this?
Yeah, I mean, I would just add it's obviously hardware is extremely tough, extremely challenging. On top of it, you could look at the crypto market as almost 15 years now.
Yeah,
give and take. I feel we are still in the early days. So many services that you would expect the platform to support and give it to you are not existent, or existent but very limited asset. So there are many things in the software level that you want to make right, and you want to make it agnostic, and you want to make it generic. And in these cases, you're investing quite a bit in terms of supporting not only the current state of things, but moving forward and looking at where the market is going. And we definitely see because there are chance that we have on big networks, how we're supporting L2s, and how we are making sure that it will be as easy as possible for our users to work with the wallet and to be able to send and receive transactions. Again, simplicity is something that is extremely hard to achieve. And that's something that we basically want to make sure that will be baked in each and every service and product that we are making and producing. Usually when you're seeing the simplicity and you're unaware of the complexity that is beneath it, that's a really good sign. I would say that if young entrepreneurs or someone want to build a new wallet, they should definitely check twice what are the current services that they could build on top of. Obviously, you don't want to reinvent the wheel. However, it's still, I would call it the Wild West, and there are many wheels that you'll need to tweak or improve. My hope is that in the next maybe 5 years, we'll see many big enterprises that are taking a real stab at it and making sure that we're having a better software tooling and better software services to deal with lots of cases. And that's my semi-hope, but also some prediction of what will happen in the industry in the next 5 years.
Is that also sort of what excites you the most about what's coming? Or is if I ask you the question, what excites you the most in this space at the moment, what would be your answer?
Yeah, I would say that, like the freedom of speech, the freedom of finance, that's what exciting me. So lots of people here in the States and maybe in Europe are really spoiled, right? They have the Visa, they have Apple Pay, and they think, the world is great. If you'll ask people, 30 years ago, if communication is great, they will tell you that fax is perfect, right? You're getting the paper, you could paint, and it's great. They don't know aware of, what's email and WhatsApp and Slack and other toolings are giving you. And I feel that we are in the same phase right now. And to me, the ability to cater and serve and help people have this financial freedom is something that really keep me excited to come and work hard and make a better Keevo for people.
Cool.
The old saying, Henry Ford said back, 100 years ago, if you ask people before the invention and scaling of cars what they wanted faster horses. And they can't tell you because they don't know what they're able to see and what is possible. And if you think about kind of the automobile, having the freedom, the independence to transport yourself, that was one thing, again, 150 years ago. And what Ido was just saying about the financial freedom, this ability to have privacy, security, and a low-cost solution to have your assets be your own, we think is just such a huge unlock that is going to, again, just we're in those early innings, and just the initial kind of securities and Bitcoin and others that people are investing in is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we see is really the potential explosion of that financial freedom to have the ability to own and control your own destiny with your own, finances.
Well, we completely second that. And we have always one question that is often not asked, but it's kind of obvious when you think about it. Because you called it Keevo, but why Keevo? Why the name? What's behind the name?
Do you want to know?
Well, the name we liked, and it's like, why do you like? We tested it. It wasn't a focus group, but like the name really comes from keys and vault. And the idea was to have your own, keys in your own vault, be your own bank, and have it be secure, but also have, like we said at the very outset, easy to use. But then we kind of fell in love with the name as well. It's all about, how do you, at the end of the day, what's super, we think, disruptive and this new trend is that, the ability to have a decentralized ledger, have all of these assets publicly available and secure, that they can't be breached, but your own private keys are just you, and just you should know them, and just you should be able to access them. They should be super private and super secure, not controlled or overlooked by anybody. And you should have that freedom to be able to do that, but it can't be incredibly hard, as we were talking about. And we think Keevo embody that. The hardware wallet, the solution, the software that we're building on top of it to integrate those keys with all these other services is super key. But at the end of the day, keeping that your private identity, your digital identity, your assets, that key safe and secure and convenient, simple to use, is what we're after.
Yeah, the key I guessed, but it's really
The
cool.
vault,
It's a key vault, right? That's it's all in one. So that's a cool name.
Yeah.
Good. So it has many features. I think we covered most of them. Is there any feature that we sort of missed about Keevo that you want to highlight?
Yeah.
The only question I'd ask you guys, and I'd ask maybe the audience as well, is about inheritance and this notion of a multi-generational. We've talked about your own financial freedom and your ability to have your own assets and your own key safe and secure and easy to use. But the question I'd ask is, is there any solution? And it's kind of a little bit rhetorical. I don't mean to be that way, but we don't see. And do you see any other solution out there whereby you could give somebody else, another human being, your assets after you die, without first having to give some other human being your private credentials, whether that's your password or your seed phrase or your device and key in a safety deposit box with a trust attorney? We haven't seen any other solution out there where you have to trust somebody else, where you don't have to trust somebody else, rather, to do that. And I'm curious if in your travels and people you've talked to and the audience, have you seen ways to do that? And we'll talk about our solution. But
there is one group, the name skipped me, but and Paul McNeil is going to not kill me, but he's going to be very upset with me. But there's a group that sort of has a 3-factor authentication. So you own a key, and then somebody else owns a key, and then they own the third key, and then with 2 from the 3, you can sort of
unlock it.
Unlock it.
But
that's the only other one.
That's not really the same. We have been talking about this subject between each other as brothers, and we trust each other. So we were talking about the same stuff. Maybe.
But that's because we.
So what we call is trustless inheritance, and I would say here too, we're very early on. We've launched it obviously, but there's so much more potential here. But the opportunity to have somebody that you trust, your beneficiary, that you would want to have your assets be able to not divulge your own private credentials, your own keys to any other human being, even that person, because there may be trust today, my spouse or children or, bank, but all of those, there's ability, and there has been, history has proven us, if nothing else, that trust breaks. So is there a trustless solution? And we think we've created something whereby you could have that multi-sig, you could have somebody else signing it, but the important thing is that they have their own key. They put it on your Keevo, on your carbon key, with their biometrics and with their password, things that they know, but on your hardware wallet, so that when you do have to rely on Keevo. It's a service. We have to authenticate that, in fact, you've died, but we can't do anything with the key, and they can't do anything with it without that ability to have the multi-sig, which I think is an early stage kind of component of Keevo, but it's nothing like that we see in the marketplace. Really can come to fruition yet, and other people are trying to innovate on that. But that issue of taking your keys to your grave with you, and there's the last 15 years or so, there's so many stories of people have done that. Whether by design or by default, they've unfortunately passed away, and those keys, that crypto is basically locked. And
like you also mentioned, right, there might be trust now, but let's say you own like 60 Bitcoin, crazy amount, right? Then suddenly that trust becomes kind of shaky, right?
It could happen.
It's that. And I would just add that we all heard about these horror stories of I forgot my password, I forgot my key, and now 200 million in USDs are just vanished, right? This is another great patch or escape from that route, where even if you lost the wallet or you forgot the password, we're here to help. Obviously, it's a service, as Henry mentioned, but it's something that is with great capabilities to basically, again, protect you from yourself. And that's another really important point.
And especially moving forward, looking into the future, I think the digital asset space is very promising. So even if you hold a small amount now, one of my sons explained to me that if you just hold on to your crypto for the next 20 years, and he has the same kind of trust in some digital assets that I hold, then maybe you own a few $100 million USD. So I said, that might be true, because he's very good at math. And then he said, I would like to get your wallet if you pass away.
The price of Bitcoin, it was 3 digits when you were looking at it 10 years ago. The famous story that the first transaction of Bitcoin was a pizza. That pizza now costs several hundred millions of dollars.
10,000 Bitcoins. So that's a nice price for Papa John's. But
so it's worth a couple $100 to have something that is worthy of your digital identity and is something that will last generations. And this multi-factor, multi-sig capability, even without that, on top of that service and solution is that you can actually, without having to trust anybody, that's why I call it trustless inheritance. You should be able to have access to that.
And you keep mentioning, and I think that's not very understood in a lot of countries around the world, but your digital identity. A lot of people don't even realize that it's already here, but it will be extremely important to have a secure digital identity that you trust, not maybe your government in some countries, but that you trust. So I think moving forward and having that in a secure way, but also in a easy to use kind of way, that's another feature of Keevo. I think that's maybe very important and will be more important in the coming years, and especially the longer future. Yeah.
And I also want to add something to that, because you also see many wallets that sort of overly focus on just biometrics, right? But I think if you do just biometrics, that's also kind of dangerous, right? Because if you are a criminal and they want to get to your funds, then they have to do something to you in order to get to those funds. So I think having something like Keevo is like a combination of many of those positive features that together become very sort of strong.
Yes, absolutely. You never want to rely just on one mechanism. You always want to have these backups options to basically the 3 out of 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you sort of mentioned it already, but do you want to now? What is your sort of prospect when you look at the market? But also just with development, it doesn't have to be price, but we're also very curious about what do you think where Bitcoin will go? So who wants to go first? How do you see like the next year or the next 5 years or whatever?
I'll only say if I knew that, I wouldn't be here. I'd be doing something different. It's if I had a crystal ball that told me, and I'd prognosticate if it's 100,000 or 20. I've lived through a couple of these in roller coaster. I shouldn't say a couple, several roller coasters, several crypto winters. But I think the long-term strategy and really the belief is that this really is the decentralized ledger, this ability to be your own bank, to have the self-custody solution that's both private and secure. It's just going to grow, and whether it is up tomorrow or down tomorrow or next year, I wouldn't hazard a guess. That's my point of view. But I think, regardless, the fact that it's going to grow over time, it's going to get higher. Nobody thought it would be 40,000 by the end of this year for Bitcoin, 45,000 or whatever it is. I think it's going to continue to grow, and there's nothing more important than having a way to keep those assets secure and convenient and accessible.
Maybe I can sort of add a question to it. Why do you think that some people, and that's the majority, think that it's going nowhere, that it's basically dead, or dead in the water? What is going on with those people? What are they missing? Why are they saying that?
I think there's people that are skeptical. It's worth what it's worth based on what the market tells you it's worth, right? There's a buyer and a seller. Every time that something trades in terms of an asset, there's somebody that believes it will be worth more, and there's somebody that believes it will be worth less. And for centuries now, people have just trusted governments and said, we trust that there's a government. Or in fact, up until 1915 in the U.S., we trusted that Fort Knox held some gold. We trusted in this hard currency that was supposedly backing up a piece of paper that was the dollar IOU. But essentially, they believed for centuries that it's a government. And for the last 100 years, certainly it was the U.S. government. The U.S. dollar was sort of the safe haven. And I think there are people that are skeptical of a digital currency, a digital gold like Bitcoin or crypto, that says there's nothing backing it. There's no people. It's just technology. And my point of view is that that's fine, and people have been through those different cycles, but fundamentally there is now scale and technology and code that you can actually trust in, that's building that's more trustworthy in many respects than many of the governments out there, including, unfortunately, our own. I don't want to get into politics at all, but it's like you've seen in the last decade for sure just how many governments, including the US, have just anyway. Sorry, Ido.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of pricing and everything else, would be crazy for me to forecast, because the right answer is no one knows. I do look at the fundamentals, and you see the increasing of inflows, you see the increasing in wallet. So to me, and it's very similar to what I saw in many, I would say, technology booms like Web 2.0, and then big data and cloud and mobile and lots of other evolutions. If we bring it to customers a better user experience and making something that is making their life better, I have no doubt that the value will follow. And we mentioned how it's being decided in open markets. To me, the fact that it's built on math and not people, it's again a strength, not a weakness. So again, I'm extremely bullish. To your question, exactly why we are these minority that see the light and all the rest are not seeing it. To me, it's really related to the fact that it should be more regulated and it should be more mainstream by improving the experience. So you could see even today in many services, you need to be a developer or an expert developer in order just to start kicking the wheels. And that's something that really intimidates many people that could benefit, could enjoy from this technology. As I mentioned before, I really feel that it's, almost 15 years now, but it's very early, very early on. So we'll see in the next, my hope is that we'll see in the next 5 to 10 years, lots of services that are being built on top of what we currently have and making it much faster, better, easier to use. And then we'll see much more adoption from different people around the world, not necessarily what we're focusing first and foremost, the US and some countries in Europe, but many other people that could leverage and really enjoy the benefits of having this new technology.
So then maybe the final sort of related question is, do you see a positive change in regulation coming forward?
I see the first, signs, signals. And by that, I mean that you could see, the Jimmy Dimons of the world, how 5 years ago, they were really against this idiotic idea. And suddenly you see that they, by actions, not by words, taking steps and embracing. And that's, to me, really encouraging signal that there will be more regulations. You could see now with the ETFs that might be part of the market here in the States. All those are really great signals that the market is going through a better regulations. And I think it's a really great signals that it's becoming much more adopted and part of our next financial lives around the world.
Oh, good answer, I think. It's a little bit the same. Nick and I look at this space. So I'm not going to talk about price. I agree. The software and the use of as easy as possible.
It's critical.
And the final stage, people shouldn't even think about if it's blockchain or even maybe the next level, like a HBAR or something. They do something a little bit different. So I think I agree. People shouldn't even notice what kind of technology they use and but they do need to hold very good hardware, like the Keevowallet. I'm really in love with it. So yeah, Nick has to wait a little bit. So I totally agree with you guys. So I think value will follow in the mid and the long term.
And of course, without sacrificing security and sort of the intermediary issue.
That's all the way back to the beginning of we want to break that compromise. There really shouldn't be that forced compromise.
Yeah. So we want to thank both of you for coming on the show. We really enjoyed it, and you gave amazing answers. And you're always welcome to come back on.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having us.
This is great, and I'm sure your audience and followers know. But it's great to hear other people. We're small but mighty, and we're growing. And it's great to get feedback. So we're bring it on. We'd love to get more folks, and it's not paid. There's really nothing here around our relationship, certainly, but also just what we're here. We believe, as Ido mentioned, think that we're early innings, and it's partly about what we believe that the future is this financial freedom. So
I think you both are doing an amazing job and providing a lot of value to the space. Keep doing that, and I wish you both a really great success and a great day.
And great, happy holidays and happy New Year. I know we're right before the holidays, but really appreciate you and everything.
And for the people watching, we're also doing a Christmas giveaway. We're gonna reveal it just after the show, so stick around or follow me on Bitcoinlive DB. Follow, of course, Henry and Ido. We'll
also follow Keevo
and Keevo, of course,
at Keevowallet on Trudeau.
We'll link it all down below, and it's also in the header. So keep following these people and stay up to date. And
this video will also be uploaded on our YouTube channel, so then people can watch the replay.
Drop by, give us a like, all the usual stuff.
Great.
Thank you both. I want to thank you both.
And Jan, be well.
Thank you.
Yep. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.